Welcome to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host. Here's our format. A bunch of guys sitting around a bar. There's no bar. Having drinks. There's no drinks either. But we're talking business, and you, the audience, are listening in. The Best of Investing is actually a radio show that has been around since August 2010, and it airs every Saturday on Fox News Radio, 9:10 a.m. at 1 p.m. Now, we're not a political show. We're strictly business, so everyone will be happy with that. We'll have various speakers, guest speakers, attorneys, accountants, economic advisors. But the cool thing about this is that you're actually getting to see scenes behind the scenes. So we all have headphones on because we're recording a radio show that is going to be airing on the air on radio. But in addition, you get to see what happens during the commercial breaks, how we prepare for the next segment. So it's a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of levity because I like to try to throw a little bit of humor in there because, you know, just business by itself sometimes gets a little boring. So you got to always kind of break things. Remember, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome, you're listening to the Best of Investing on News Talk 910. This is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. For those of you listening for the first time, here's our format. A few guys sitting around a bar having drinks without the drinks, talking business with you, the audience, listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm honored to have as my co-hosts Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money and Brian Burke of Praxis Capital. Ready for this? Today's trivia theme is famous voices from the movies. We've received requests for more Edward Brown voiceovers. Don't you love it?
Sure.
You know, it's gonna
Obviously, they haven't heard him before.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, today's special guest is Mitchell Brooks, and Mitchell Brooks is a managing partner for Resolute Security Group. He's had 27 years of corporate security management and law enforcement experience, and has been a global leader in providing security services to a host of Fortune 100 companies. During his tenure in law enforcement, he served as a detective, K-9 officer, and field training officer, and is recognized as an expert in specialized training in the areas of narcotics, investigations, and K-9 procedures. Mitchell, welcome to the Best of Investing.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, you know, interesting business that you're in, and I'm just curious, how do you get into such a business? It seems like that would be something that would be interesting to a lot of people, but hard to crack into.
No, it's not necessarily hard to crack into. You just have to have a desire to be in security. You know, law enforcement helps. A lot of people that are in the private security realm are from the law enforcement background types. But we do have a lot of people in our field now that are actually just private citizens, and there's actually classes now at different colleges for security management. So they are learning about security, and there's a lot of different avenues in the security industry. I mean, you've got the physical security, you've got IT security technology,
right.
And there's field work, there's behind a desk work, investigations. There's a lot of different areas that, you know, security really, the tentacles seep into.
So it's not this typical situation that you would think of where a guy tries to become a police officer and can't, so that he goes into security.
Well, that happens too.
Okay.
Some people just, for whatever reasons, can't make it in law enforcement, which, you know, we all know here that law enforcement is a very stressful occupation.
Stuff to get into.
Yeah, I was very fortunate enough to make it. My two sons now are in law enforcement also, so it's one of those arenas where, you know, not everybody's cut out to be that. But in the private security arena, you know, it's tough also at times, especially being an owner of a security company. But it's a lot of enjoyment in helping businesses and individuals protecting their assets.
To go from law enforcement to security is a natural transition, but to go from law enforcement to business owner is a bit of a different transition, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but there's a lot of things that are very similar. You know, as a police officer, you're responsible for a beat. You're responsible to keep that clean. And as you move into detectives, then you have a whole caseload. It's the same thing. Managing time, managing resources, the same thing as business, except you're managing money. In the private sector, money is really important, but in the public sector, as we all know, the government spends a lot of money, and it's our tax money at times.
I thought you were going to say that you're in charge of the beatdown, but
no.
Okay.
You're watching too many movies.
Yeah, too many movies. Yeah.
So why do businesses even need security?
There's a lot of reasons, but the most important reason is protect their assets. And assets are anything that a company has that's very important to them. The most important asset is their people, from the CEO all the way down to the staffers in the office and out in the field. You need to protect your assets. In this competitive climate that we live in now, things happen. There's a lot of things that can potentially happen to a business and their assets. A very simple one, workplace violence. Huge issue in our society
Especially
now.
at the post office.
Post office. We just recently had a workplace violence incident in the Bay Area at the school over in Oakland. And there's a lot of things that can be done to prevent that, and measures that can be put in place. Training to start off with. Security, that's part of the security realm, is training. The signs.
So we're not talking mall cop here. We're talking bodyguard, right?
We like to use an industry term, executive protection agent.
Got it.
Okay, more professional sounding. It's just not a bodyguard. A bodyguard. When you hear the word bodyguard, most people think of a bouncer, a big, burly person.
I'm thinking Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston.
He wasn't a big guy, but actually, Mitchell, you are a big guy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you know what? That movie really portrays very well at times the role of a bodyguard or executive protection agent. Most people, when they think of somebody who is actually protecting somebody else, they think of the biggest guy in the room who can lift the whole building up. And that's not necessarily the case. You want somebody who can actually blend into an environment and really is there but isn't there.
Well, to diffuse the situation, mostly. I mean,
Have some verbal judo.
Okay. I can give you another example that most people can relate to, because when you start to talk about executive protection, think about the movie just a few years ago, Taken.
Oh,
I
love that movie.
You remember the beginning of the movie?
Yes.
You remember at the beginning of the scenes when he's protecting the singer?
Yes.
Right.
And what happened? He wasn't a big guy, was he?
No.
He was just an average individual, but he has that highly skilled training sets that help him maneuver through that area. But he also had a law enforcement background. He was a federal covert op, basically.
So on executive protection, are we talking mostly celebrities or just other high-ranking corporate executive types?
No, not actually. I learned a lot when I was in the police department. I went to a few schools as far as dignitary protection put on by the Department of Justice.
Dignitary, like that.
Yeah, but it's just not, protection's not for just your CEO or a VIP person. It can be for just about anybody, and through my time in this business, we've provided protection for those individuals also, but also for just ordinary people because of certain threats that occur at their business or in their occupation. I can give you one instance several years back where we had a shooting with one of our particular clients back east. And at that time, they didn't know who the shooter was, but they thought he was, or she, was basically singling out their employees. Well, we put protection, actual officers, with these individuals around the clock, and they were just your ordinary retail clerks. They just didn't know who was the target. So, and that went on for about 3 weeks, and finally the police were able to solve it. But it's just not for CEOs. The reason that protection is for CEOs, it's critical that those folks are never embarrassed. Some of these people run corporations such as Microsoft. If Bill Gates, something happened to him, just think what that would do possibly to the stock price.
Well, that's, it's funny. I thought about that where you have protection for ex-presidents, and I'm thinking, Carter and Clinton, and I'm thinking, who cares? Why does the Secret Service have to? Why do we have to pay for that? But then I realized, if let's say Clinton gets abducted, all the information that he has in his brain. I mean, there's a lot of security for the United States that has to get protected.
Exactly.
Well, plus it's embarrassing too. Just it's a national embarrassment if your ex-president.
Well,
gets
that's a
roughed
good
up.
point. Well, so here's a question, Mitchell. Before we go to commercial break, I want to see if we can answer this one. How do you quantify the savings? You know, the risk reward. Like, you know, how much does it cost, and how does a company figure out if it's worth it?
Well, the cost, you know, is in the private sector is a main driving factor of security. And when we sit down with a client, we like to sit in a setting just like this, just not without the microphones, and discuss exactly what they want. You know, you can get the Cadillac coverage, or you can get what we refer to as the Yugo coverage.
Oh, wait, hold on. Does that mean that we'll protect you so you don't get killed, but we won't protect you if you get hurt?
No,
I know, geez.
Yeah, no. But well, let me just clarify a little bit.
Protect just your arms, but your legs are open
Right.
season.
Well, let me just clarify. There's different programs you can put in place, and when I sit down with a client and we're talking about their security needs and what exactly they're looking for, we can layer the security approach. We can do things that aren't as costly. When you look at the cost, security is not a profit center. It takes money off of the profits to provide that security.
Sure.
But in the long run, when you start to look at security, just think of loss prevention agents. They stop shrinkage out of retail stores, which saves their customers money down the road. Think of cameras, surveillance cameras in a grocery store. Let's say you have slip and falls. Workers' comp. If you can show that something didn't occur, that camera just saved you money. There's a lot of different access control systems to keep people out of buildings. So there's a lot of
Okay,
avenues.
we're going to continue this more with Mitchell Brooks, who's quite the awesome expert in security here. We're going to go to our first commercial break, and here's our first trivia question. Again, we are talking about, what are we talking about here? We're talking about trivia. The trivia theme is famous voices from the movies. Ready? In the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey, what was the name of the computer that would say, Dave, just what do you think you're doing, Dave? Well, welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hanf and Brian Burke. And when we went to the first commercial break, we asked this first trivia question. In the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey, what was the name of the computer that would say, Dave, just what do you think you're doing, Dave? Everyone, what's the answer?
Dave's not here.
I don't have the first clue.
You don't,
You don't
no
know?
sports, no movies.
Really?
Come on, Al. And Mitchell, you were
Yes.
talking about being you own a security company. Give us some fun stories on radio here.
Well, one of the things about private security is you don't want any fun stories, but you know, I have a few. If you have fun stories, usually you're not going to have many clients. So your job isn't to make, your job is to make sure that your clients, in whatever you're doing, are not put in compromising positions, whether it's protecting a CEO or if it's protecting their property, any of those things. I mean, you don't want to have a security guard standing outside of a building at night or inside a building and the suspects are coming through the roof stealing everything while he's there. That's kind of embarrassing.
That's
you know, when you're in law enforcement, first thing that happens when you're in training session, you're watching a video, you sit down and your eyes close. That's usually how it goes, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it goes in the private sector also with our guards. So we always tell them no, but you know, the client, you know, always insists. So, but as far as funny stories go, you know, we've had a few instances, like I said, and that's the thing about security. Security is an inconvenience at times for people because it's rules, and we have to live within those rules. And
It's just airport security that's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Well, that can be a time.
TSA, yeah.
But you know, it's there for a reason. It's there to protect you. And I agree. You know, I've worked on both sides of the fence, and I understand. You know, I'm a citizen also when I go through the airport, but sometimes it gets a little annoying. And there are better ways to do it. And every day,
Especially those pat downs.
yeah, every day
Where
we're
you go?
every day we're getting better in our security and our approach. I mean, things change drastically. It seems like from year to year.
Yeah, but sometimes just the fact that you've got a security guy there with a gun, especially, is a deterrent. Just having presence, isn't it?
It is a deterrent at times, but you can put a person out on a post with a gun, and as we were talking off during the break, you can put somebody who's not as trained. So are they really a deterrent, or could they become part of the victim pool? Think about it.
Or are they the ones that just brought the weapon to the crime?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
Can I borrow your gun?
So, you know, and in our business, we do too, the company that I'm involved in, we do have uniformed guards. We have armed guards. We do investigating, we do consulting, we do surveillance. But when we put somebody out with a gun, we run them through training programs. We make sure that they know how to use the weapon. We like to hire a lot of retired law enforcement people for our high-end jobs. We actually hire private citizens, but they've gone through a lot of different schools. And there's several schools across the country that individuals can go to and get the skill sets necessary to do this kind of work.
Do you hire guys like Jason Statham who can like totally kick your butt if they don't like?
Who is that?
That's an actor that does all those movies where with a lot of kung fu action.
Oh,
You guys don't watch
or
TV.
Jet Li. That guy apparently was so fast in the Lethal Weapon movies. They actually had to slow the camera down. He was
No, you know, again, like we were talking earlier, it's not the biggest person. It's the most talented person. And usually the most talented people, I mean, are just average people. You wouldn't know it. Look at your Navy SEALs. Those guys are just average guys. I mean, there's some big guys there too, but they're average guys. And that's the misconception that the public has about security. It's biggest is always the best. Not necessarily.
Well, it's the bouncer. You
Yeah.
know, in movies, the bouncer's always really big.
But every time you see the entertainers, their executive protection are always very, very big. Just coincidentally.
Well,
so
again,
it's-
I think part of it too. Again, it's just the impression. Like, I don't want to mess with that big guy.
yeah, exactly.
Well, but look at dignitaries. Look at the president. When you see the president on television and you see his protection detail,
No, they're just regular looking guys.
nobody sticks out. They
Yeah.
just blend in, and those individuals are highly, highly trained.
Like you said, you want it to be boring. You don't want all this. I got the biggest guy. He's gonna, beat the crap out of you. It's the smartest guy who can diffuse a situation before it happens.
You definitely want it to be boring. We've had cases where we've come to confrontations. You try to avoid that at all possible, but it does happen. I know of a couple of one company that they were doing a shareholders meeting, and it became very heated. The company was
contentious, huh?
Yes,